Hello everyone, my name is That Lemon Artist, and I have a nice sketchbook tour for you. So while showing off the cover art, I'm going to give you a little background to this one. I started it on May 14th of 2024 and completed it in early August of that same year. So this is my summer sketchbook. Since then, I have completed 2.5 sketchbooks and, I'm in the process of finishing up that other half. I have a whole variety of things in here for you. This is actually a watercolor sketchbook. I unfortunately do not know of the brand name, but I could try to do research if anyone is interested in it. So, without further ado, this is the inside cover. This is the receipt that I actually got when I bought this sketchbook. And this is a gift card that I won that I put into buying the sketchbook. So, yeah. On this first page here, this is actually a piece that I made later on towards the end of this sketchbook. I actually went back to this first page to, fill up some space and whatnot. This is my uncle and my brother, and I had started here, here, and here. I had done 3 renditions of the same exact image to just kind of play around with style, play around with the sense of uniqueness. I'm actually a really big fan of this first one here. I really like the direction that plays around with it, but it still has this very, very nice, fun look to it. So on this next page here, we have some early works. I don't know about much of you, but I know from my own experience, I have really struggled with starting sketchbooks, and whenever I do, I end up doing these little doodle things of just very primitive type artwork, some characters that I really like in media, some other self-portrait or two, and, it just kind of, I start to get the ball rolling. So they're not always my favorite sketches that come out of it, but it's a sentiment to how I create sketchbooks and how I start them and all of that good stuff. And so for instance, here we have some playing around with watercolor. Here especially, I really like the way the shading turned out. And, it's been really fun just working around and playing around with this medium that I wasn't quite used to at the beginning of this sketchbook. So since this page didn't turn out the way I had hoped, I turned it into a junk page. So for instance, let's say you're working with watercolor and you have an excess of a color that you don't want to use. What I would do is I would flip to this page and I would scratch it out right over here so that I wouldn't have to use a paper towel, or I wouldn't have to, waste any page space aside from this one. This kind of became my scrap page where I would just, remove excess colors or mixed colors or whatnot from either watercolor or markers. This page here was kind of a memory capture of just some things that I was up to with some friends. And I just wanted to really capture it in a very visually engaging way. So, we have these 4 little frames here, this fun time. Following this, we have this nice little page. Again, it has some more caricature-esque doodles. I'm a big fan of how this gentleman came out. This page in particular, I was trying to work without references because I tend to gravitate within my sketchbook work towards lots and lots of photo references and cartoon references, etc., etc. But I was really trying to push myself with that. Aside from these 2 little characters, we got Carmen, of course, and some Trolls characters that I was sneaking around. You'll see some more of those in the future. And just really playing around with the mediums and playing around with the characters and all that fun stuff. Following this, we have this page, some more playing with characters. I'm actually a really big fan of how this guy turned out. Here, I'll flip him around for you. He was just a jolly old fella, and I really had a lot of fun playing around with his vibe and just who he was as a person. This one was actually made at a friend's house of mine. We were just catching up and being creative, and I wanted to capture her living room and just all of the fun stuff from there. So this is actually one of my first big pieces, big, that I've ever done in watercolor, and I started it in watercolor and then inked it in the pen afterwards. And I'm actually a really big fan of how it turned out and of the looseness that I was able to capture. I'm a big fan of her too, and how I've made her the focal point with this darker marker. I really, really enjoyed making this piece and enjoy it in general. Moving on, we have this page. Now, I remember very distinctly kind of struggling throughout this page, or both these pages. I was in the midst of kind of an art block because it was right after my college semester, and I was a bit burnt out. And whenever I find myself burnt out, I find it hard to really come up with new ideas and be creative, and it forces me to look into the stuff that I love. So, for instance, we have some Smiling Friends characters, these will be reoccurring, and some other Trolls characters. Now, I say that in quotes because at the time I was very embarrassed to be into Trolls, and still saying it's a little funny in my head. But, you know, these are some two. This is Poppy and Branch. This is another Branch. I've since then grown and just kind of come to accept that that's something that I was into. Now it's really funny and fun looking back on it. So, yeah. Just trying to work with that, work through that. This day was actually a from life piece that I did. My family and I were on vacation for a weekend. We were watching South Park, and I wanted to just really depict what I was seeing. I was on the far corner, and I just wanted to really have fun with these markers too, because these were some new ones for me. These don't have the label because of how much use I put into them, but I do have the name brand written down, so if anyone wants them, please leave it in the comments. So yeah, these are some really nice, this is just a really nice piece of my family and where we were at the time. This is just some character work that I was working on, just really experimenting with and, you know, having fun with. So, yeah. I'm actually a big fan of this page because the majority of this work was done from life. I had done this while on vacation as well, and it had really given me a great sense of just like where I was at the moment, and it's very fun to look back on. I'm just a big fan of pages like this where it just kind of encapsulates the memory. This was another page that I had utilized to capture the moment. This was a portrait of what I was wearing that day. These were just some nice little architectural pieces that I had seen. Architectural's a stretch, of course, is a road sign, but you know what I mean. And just some doodles to pair with it. So, you know, fun stuff. This also kind of turned into a junk page, as you can see. I say junk lightly. This had actually been just a whole bunch of stuff of me trying to work through art block and work through this and that, the other thing. But it creates this really nice visual of layering and chaos that my mind was going through. And of course we have a little Alan right here. This page actually contains a really fascinating thing. Now this is a dragonfly that I had found on the beach and I wanted to really physically incorporate into my sketchbook. I had started to do some sketches of the wings and then just kind of left it there because, you know, I got bored and moved on to other things, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And this piece is actually Kenny from South Park because, of course. Moving on to the next page here, we have another one of my memory dumps, so to speak. Now this is a really fun one to look back on because not only was I starting my summer internship the day after, but I was also learning how to drive consistently and drive on a daily basis. Learning how to drive was a bit of a struggle for myself, and up until this point I hadn't really been driving consistently every day on the road, so this was a big breaking point, big change in my life for that moment. So I had really drawn some of my struggles out with that and really just kind of worked myself out of it through my art and through, you know, actually doing it. Moving on to this page, we have some summer goals, some project goals for the summer. As it says, I didn't fully complete all of these, but for the ones that I did complete, such as this one and this one, I'm quite happy with the results. This is actually I had actually recorded the process of this piece and planning on posting it to TikTok/Instagram, but hadn't gotten around to it. So you might see that in the near future. I'm planning on doing that alongside a separate sewing video. So yeah. Following this, we have, this was a fun page. So this one really quick was just some more character workings, a lot of little work, trying to work things out and stuff like that. Following this was a really fun day. I was at the beach with my really good friends from back at home, and I wanted to just really capture the moment. For this piece, I was actually able to utilize some of my friends' colored pencils, which was a really fun time, because I don't usually work with colored pencils. I've been getting into them lately, but this was just kind of me using it to enhance certain emotions and certain, you know, vibes and all of that fun stuff. So this was a really fun day. Oh, ooh, afterwards. So this piece, oh my goodness. This is a portrait that I did of Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett, the creators of Gorillaz. Now, I know most of you who know me know my violent obsession with Gorillaz, and I do not say violent lightly. I really wanted to create this piece as a little, like, appreciation work, loving just work in general. This is based on a reference photo, which I will probably put up now. And I'm just a big fan of how this turned out. In terms of the background, I had wanted to create this nice little feng shui look to just give it a nice emphasis and just to really emphasize the power of the colors that I had used. For anyone who's curious, this is actually made with gouache. This is a really nice brand of gouache that I've been using for years now because I got them for Christmas a couple years back. And yeah, it just has this really fun look to it. One day, I hope to either come back to it or create a piece similar to it that has this nice little flowy background throughout the entire piece instead of just on Damon's shoulders. But for right now, you know, this is Damon and Jamie from Gorillaz. If you're watching this by any chance, thank you for Gorillaz. I love you to death, and I cannot wait for the next phase. But anyways, moving on from this. We have this page. This was another one of my little doodly pages. Not much to say from here. It was a fun time. Again, this is my brother at his hockey game. I just realized I've drawn a lot of him at hockey. And this page was actually really fun. I remember coming back to it a couple times. I remember adding this portrait later on. This was actually someone I had seen around town, and I had just loved their red pants with their red hair and the freckles. It was just a very fun time. This tree I had also drawn from life. This was really fun. And this was actually a family portrait, as you can see, of some cones because I thought that would be silly and goofy and quirky. Moving on from this, we have a whole bunch of little doodles here and there. My favorite of all, though, is definitely this piece. I just love the characterization of him and just how he moves around the page and whatnot. I had used watercolor to ink color it, obviously, and just normal ballpoint pen to ink it, and I'm just a big fan of how that sense of like mixed media worked within my style. I'm really into this. I have some other doodles, and this is kind of an experimental page of mine. I was working with like sewing paper together and breaking it apart and all aquatic-y things as well. This is actually of a very light sketch of a whale fall, which is super fascinating. It's to get into my little marine biology nerd side for a second, it is a decomposing whale that is essential to the ecosystem of the very deep depths of the ocean, where it's used for food and nutrients and etc. But I digress. This is a sketch of that, and I'm hoping to incorporate it into some larger works in the future, but that's for later. These are just some little doodles. The blue of this page kind of seeped onto this one, as you can see, so it's not the best visual, but you know, just some fun ways of working around characters and again sketching some more. This was a fun one. This page, before we get into this one, this was actually a piece that I had done of my friend's drink. She had come over to my house that day, and we were just outside. I had a nice little charcuterie board going, and I just adore how it came out. I wanted to really test myself with watercolors that day, I remember, and throughout the process of it, it became a love-hate-love relationship. I loved it, hated it, and then loved it. I really, with my friend's motivation, I had really trusted the process, and it's just this gorgeous take on this drink that I'm very proud of. This is a little doodle that I don't hate. It's on a receipt, it's on a Michael's receipt specifically. I was showing off to myself some of the markers that I had just bought and had tried to make a little character with them. So, you know, this is what we have. And now this piece was super fun. I actually have the time lapse of it that I had made, but have yet to post because it just wasn't the most visually engaging. So who knows, maybe I'll pop that on here, just slap it on there for a little bit. So here's this beautiful, beautiful piece. I was just kind of flowing around with it. I actually made this in one go at like 11 o'clock at night before work. So that was just really fun to just, you know, experiment with watercolor and how it moves and just, you know, all that good stuff. Following this page, ooh, this is a good one. So this is not so much a character study, but kind of a character study. I had actually seen this individual on my drive home from work. I had seen them walking. They had this white shirt with these nice red shorts that I just wanted to really depict. And, you know, I just wanted to draw them and the whole vibe that they gave out alongside some funky little shapes in the back, just to give the character a nice space to play around and play off with. So I'm a big fan of how this turned out. This page was me kind of experimenting with a roller for printmaking and some printmaking ink. Didn't really, you know, I never really went back to it, but it's an interesting one. This is, as you can see, a hand and foot study I had actually made in the back of my friend's car. We were going thrifting that day, and of course, being the art kid that I am, I was like, I need to bring my sketchbook because why not? And I had limited my palette to just these couple of colors, and I wanted to just see what I could do with them. And what I did was draw my hand and my foot inside my flip-flop. So that was really fun. I'm a big fan of how this one came out, the emotion, so to speak, that comes from it, as well as just the little perspective drawing of this one, just how I was just having fun with it. I'm really happy with it. This page is another one of just kind of like experiments and just having fun with stuff like that. You know, not really much to be said about it, just kind of a doodle page. We're rearing towards the end here. This is fun. This page I had actually made throughout my time on vacation and the drive to vacation. My family and I actually drove 12 hours to get there, so I had a lot of time just to work on some stuff and just to really have fun. This is actually an appearance of one of my OCs from a couple years back. His name's Mateo. Very lovely fellow. I have yet to pick him up again, but you know, I'm a big fan of these, and these guys are a little sneak peek for later. You'll soon see what I'm referring to. This is some more just kind of fun work, working out with characters and the weird limbs that we all possess, some fun watercolor sketches, just really fun pieces. This is a piece that I had made while on vacation, purely with watercolor. It didn't turn out the way that I had fully intended, but I just loved the way that the clouds looked in the sky on those lovely beachside nights, and I wanted to do that paired with a bunch of jellyfish that were like swimming past it. I'm actually a big fan of this concept, despite it not turning out the way I intended, but I really love the way that the jellyfish layer on top of each other, so I'll probably do something like that in the future. This was kind of just a sketch that didn't pan out right, so here it is. But this is one of my favorite set of pages in my entire sketchbook. Now this little guy is portraits of seagulls that I had seen throughout vacation. These guys were so fun to draw. I'm just such a big fan of how they turned out and just how they all have their little personalities going. I'm definitely planning on selling these as prints if anyone is interested in, because I am definitely interested just in seeing the way that they turn out as prints, so that would be really fun. Moving on to this page, this was actually a portrait of a lovely Filipino man that I had seen fishing alongside the shoreline. And I had a little conversation with him and what he was catching, and it just was this super fun bonding moment. The sketches underneath are actually little portraits of him that I had done, but I hadn't loved, and this was a lot larger of one. I just adore how the wrinkles in his shirt fabric look. It's just stunning to me. I'm a big fan of how this turned out. And the last couple of pages here, we have, you know, some more doodles, just having fun with it. I had actually done this based on my job because we had this great thing called a garden club going, and I wanted to just kind of reference that. And this is just some little portraits that I had done, really working with line and experimenting with it. I really like the way that this funky little elbow looks and just the funky hands as well. Fun stuff. So moving on, This is a watercolor of my car that I had done while in my car. So it's a piece from life. I'm a huge fan of how this turned out, and I'm extremely proud of just the curvature that I got from it, of just staring at the whole dashboard and just all that fun stuff. So I had done this over the course of a couple days before work, and I'm a big fan of it. I really like just the entire vibe. The last couple of pages here are just some little doodles of mine, and similar to myself in the beginning of sketchbooks, right over here, I tend to struggle with finishing up a sketchbook, so it ends up having this little sparse doodly look to it. I'm a huge fan though of how these Smiling Friends characters turned out. They're just so stylized and so goofy. But aside from that, there isn't really much else crazy going on here. But yeah, so that is my sketchbook from this past summer. Thank you so much everyone for listening in and just stopping by. I'm a huge fan of how it turned out. And as I said, I have 2 more completed sketchbooks and 1/2 of the sketchbook finished up. So I'm hoping to post some more after this. And if anything, I actually have a whole bunch of old sketchbooks that I can definitely dig through one day. But that'll be a project for the future. So as I said, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming. And be sure to check me out on Instagram, TikTok if you still have it, and Tumblr actually, all That Lemon Artist. So thank you so much for coming, and have a lovely rest of your day.